it definitely has a lot to offer compared to other communities within California.
Some of these old farmers that died in the 20s and 30s, like Mr. Kraft, God, he'd turn over in his grave. He can see what
has happened.
It's been a kind of a wonderful life in Cupertino.
Hello and welcome to the first edition of Channel 30's Cupertino Perspective. I'm Dorothy Cornelius. In a recent survey of Cupertino residents, we found that many of you want innovative programs focusing on specific events and problems facing your community. Well, in this series, we're going to do just that. Focus in on those events and problems facing Cupertino and you, the citizen. The first installment of Cupertino Perspective, the city's 30th birthday. October 10th marked 30 years since incorporation and 30 years of unstoppable, prosperous growth.
And the one constant theme when I've talked to people that were here in the beginning and the people that have served in the community over the years has been to have controlled, planned growth. It's been the one constant theme that we've strived for the past 30 years. And so today, we are recognized as a highly desirable city in which to live. We have a strong financial base, we have fine schools, the city's full of culture, a lot of hardworking people, very active citizenry. And I want to thank everybody here and those of you that were not able to make it tonight for helping make Cupertino the fantastic place it really is to live. It's a very special place, and I think everybody else in the valley recognizes it.
That was Mayor Phil Johnson at a recent city celebration held at Valco Fashion Park. In this program, you'll meet 7 individuals, all of them longtime Cupertino residents with very definite opinions. You will see through their memories what Cupertino was like in the old rural days. You'll evaluate these longtime residents' dislikes and likes about the present Cupertino and assess their predictions for the city's future. Do they agree with Mayor Johnson that Cupertino is a highly desirable place in which to live? We'll see. But first, let's start the ball rolling with some Tino trivia. If you know the answers to this, you really have your act together. Do you know the proper way to pronounce the name of our city? Well, if you said Cupertino, you're wrong. It's Cupertino, although none of us will ever pronounce it that way. But if you did get that one, here are some more things you may not know. The Union Parish Church, founded in 1864, was the city's first religious establishment. Cupertino incorporated because it was nearly annexed by Sunnyvale in 1954. And on October 10, 1955, the state certified Cupertino as the 13th city in Santa Clara County. Our city is named after a saint. That's right, Saint Giuseppe of Cupertino, Italy. Cupertino's population has increased 1,800% since 1955. What used to be a tiny community of 2,000 now is home to more than 38,000 people. 30 years ago, fruit production was the major industry in Cupertino, with 3/4 of the land devoted to agriculture alone. Did you know that we're referred to as Cupertinans, not Cupertinians? In 1959, Cupertino Crossroads became the city's first major shopping center and remained so until 1975, when Bullock's opened at Valco Fashion Plaza. And how about this one? Highway 85, Highway 9, Saratoga Sunnyvale Road, and De Anza Boulevard are different names, but the same street. The new catchword is going to be Downtown Cupertino, what with the planned construction of a major civic center and multi-story hotel. And last but not least, did you know that Cupertino has a foreign policy? Well, it's true. Our sister city programs with Japan and Italy are active and strong, bringing an international flair to municipal government. As you can see by all this trivia, Cupertino is a rich and dynamic city in terms of its people and landmarks. Let's ask our panel of citizens what Cupertino used to be like.
I would say that Cupertino in the olden days was all orchards, very well kept, not a stick of grass around anywhere. The trees were all white, stumps were whitewashed, and the trees were well taken care of, and the orchards were just beautiful.
Cupertino at one time was a real farming community. Apricots over here in the corner of Stevens Creek and Highway 9, and then prunes Euphrates prunes went all the way to the top. In here, right where we're sitting right here, was an apricot orchard owned by Mrs. Bear. I used to burn the brush on this orchard many, many years ago. I got $25 for 10 acres. I was really happy about that.
I attended Lincoln Elementary Grammar on the corner of Prospect and Highway 9 from first grade through fifth until that Christmas vacation, when all of us then were moved to Cupertino Union Grammar School, which was really a beautiful school. It was built in the style of Spanish architecture with a center courtyard and tile roof and gardens in the front, and beautifully kept.
The first building that bordered, well, belonged Stevens Creek and then Highway 9, it was called Shady Corners. And no one has heard about Shady Corners. It was Mr. O'Chasey built it, and it was for libation. Is that the word you use?
You mean it was a beer joint?
We enjoyed life because things were rather simple then. We had a streetcar running from Cupertino all the way to San Jose, and we could ride there for a nickel, you know.
On the southeast corner of the crossroads was the interurban railway station, and that was where you picked up or were picked up by the streetcar, which ran straight parallel with Stevens Creek Road, just as it is now. On the other side, going south, let's see, it'd be southeast, was the old Cupertino Union Church.
The population was 3,500, and we had 738 mailboxes. I became postmaster on October 1st, 1935, and took over the work, and I earned $785 a year. That's all I got, working almost 12 hours a day. And for a time, Henrietta worked with me in the post office. She got 25 cents an hour. That's what the wages were.
When I was just a youngster, 5, 6, 7 years old, I grew up on a dairy in this valley on Blossom Hill Road. We had a 400-acre ranch, and one thing my dad was always looking for was cheap feed to feed our cattle, something that he could get for nothing. And at that time, Cupertino was more or less a farming community, ranching, farming, that type of thing. And I used to get in the truck with my dad. We'd come over here and drive basically from Los Gatos area all the way over here on roads that were more or less empty. Maybe we'd see 3 or 4 cars all the way over here. And I used to sometimes tell my dad, Dad, I don't really want to go over to get the broccoli or the cauliflower, which were discards from the canneries, because I said it's so boring. There's nothing to see. It's just farmland.
It was all orchards, and an awful lots of traffic like we still have, because everybody going to Santa Cruz from San Francisco and the cities up north, they all came through Cupertino down Highway 9. As I sold the land, I started off on North Blaney. I got most of those streets named after the people that had farmed that land and given it such loving care for so many years and lived on it. The first one was Torrey Avenue for John Torrey, who owned a beautiful colonial house on Highway 9 there.
In the 60s, we had tremendous community support. And the educator was able to put into his schools programs that were really helpful to students. Of closed-circuit television, Cupertino, one of the first schools in the nation, a counseling program where students were counseled on almost a daily rate, where they would be able to relate to an adult. It was an exciting community. And as a result, the Cupertino Elementary School District was perhaps one of the finest elementary school districts in the nation, and certainly a high school was second to none.
Well, one thing that I enjoyed so much was the parades that we had each year.
We started the first Pioneer Day Parade because Cupertino were called the Pioneers, and we had our horses and our song girls and our band, and we were on, and then we brought in, and I also felt that we should give the little tots an opportunity to march in a parade, and we have Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and high Y. One time we had elephants, and every organization contributes something to that community event.
The street was completely lined up on both sides when this parade would go down. It was just real exciting. I miss that very much.
And as Cupertino grew, many people felt, well, we can't close Stevens Creek, we can't do this and we can't, but they were forgetting that the important thing in the community is to keep it alive with people involved in community events, and that was something to look forward to all year long.
I did start the group of women, which we call the chambermaids, and we did so many things. Every time that a new business came in, we participated, and I think it was just great it made the people, the new beginners that were coming into Cupertino, I think, feel very welcome.
I'm sure that brought back a lot of memories to some of you. But a city doesn't survive on memories alone. We must remain open to ideas and suggestions, whether negative or positive. First, let's take a look at what some people feel are real problems facing Cupertino. They may echo some of your concerns.
Well, in terms of a loss, I feel that because these large industries are big companies and a lot of commercial enterprises have moved into this area, they have replaced farmland that probably will never be recouped.
I'm disappointed in how many office buildings we have. That's all we see now. And I don't see that they're all leased. And I'm concerned that with all of this, everybody that comes in and works in one of those offices is going to have a place to live. And I think that we should have prepared for much more housing.
Although you've seen a tremendous amount of growth in this community, it has not been in the area of single-family housing. Yes, there have been some condominiums built, but most of the growth I see are such complexes as you see very close by here. Valco, Hewlett-Packard, four-phase takes up a good part of Highway 9.
I'm not too happy with what the city has planned or has been doing for the elderly people, especially low-income people. There's not enough housing for low-income people. There's not enough housing for the young people starting out who don't have large salaries and who may never have large salaries. This is a community that has been fostered by high tech, and it's only the high tech people that can afford to live, especially in the best areas.
They have pushed up housing prices because there's a tremendous demand to live close to these high-tech industries, so you don't have the great commute, and then also to be part of an excellent school system. As a result, housing prices have skyrocketed here, and it's difficult for the average family, young couple, to move into this area and raise a family. Hence, the homes are not being sold.
And so how can young people even begin to think of living in this area without having to live with their parents or having to live with other people, or both young people have to work, which makes it difficult to raise your children?
I guess you might call it a white-collar managerial type of community that has not given the young people an opportunity to grow up in this community because they can't afford the houses. They can't afford to live here.
I did dislike it in the beginning when all our beautiful orchards, especially the beautiful apricot orchard where Gemco is now, that was handsome. It was beautiful. And when that went down, that kind of broke our hearts.
But the traffic now is horrendous. Now one of the bad things too is so many stoplights. They're good if you want to get somewhere, but they're bad if you want to make time.
I feel so sorry. I'm, you know, looking up from here and seeing the traffic below and listening. I listen to every program at the City Hall at nights when they have their hearings. And the people getting up and complaining about they're afraid for their children to cross the street and go to school. I don't think we need that.
You get involved with the city council then, huh? Well, they do as they damn please, and my dislike is that they do not hear a lot of questions out. And they got their minds up made before.
And another bad thing is all the restrictions. You know, building restrictions, code changes, even up in the hills. Everything has to go by code, which in some ways is good, but some ways it can get very technical.
I feel that our schools are suffering, and our students are suffering. I feel that we are not giving them the real opportunity that a high school should give them.
My concern is that we don't have quite the same continuity between families and generations, because the people who are moving into the community don't have real strong family ties here, and they don't have a great historical perspective on the community. They're moving here because it's close to a job or it's a good school system, but not because they have a history of family upon family generation. And I tend to miss that.
It used to be that when I went to Gemco, my husband would say, "What kept you so long?" And I'd say, "Well, I saw so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so." Now we both say that we can go to Gemco and not see anyone that we know. Rarely. There's so many strangers.
Strangers, lack of opportunity for our youth, too many commercial buildings, not enough housing, and lots of traffic. These are just some of the problems people feel Cupertino has to deal with. But you know, one can easily turn these dislikes into optimistic comments on our city. And yes, that even includes the traffic issue. We'll see this in just a moment. But right now, let's start getting into the spirit of things by watching the city's 30th anniversary celebration at Valco Fashion Park. Was quite a special event. What are some of the positive things about Cupertino that warrant such a celebration? Again, let's ask our panel of citizens. Why do they like Cupertino?
I definitely think there's no problem with getting anything you want. If it's not in Cupertino, you probably don't really need it. I like the fact that I can leave my house and within 5 or 10 minutes pretty much be anywhere that I wanted to be in order to get something. You know, I don't have to plan it a half an hour ahead of time and leave a half an hour ahead because there may be a traffic jam. You know, I felt like I was always that way in LA. If I was going to go visit a friend, if I had to get on a freeway, I had to be aware that, you know, the freeway was probably going to be backed up and I was going to have to plan another extra half hour. Whereas now I leave 15 minutes ahead of time and I'm there no problem. And I think that you know, accessibility, I would challenge anybody to find something that really isn't around here.
I like the fact that I don't have to go far to shop, which is good. I like the fact that there are more things going on, cultural events at Dan's if you want to go there.
Cupertino has, for all intents and purposes, been put on the map. President Reagan chose to come here and campaign here at De Anza College. I think De Anza College has also contributed because it's a very fine junior college, community college system.
The Cupertino schools are renowned in their excellence, and I want my children to grow up in that environment.
We're sandwiched in between some very major institutions, Stanford, Berkeley, Santa Clara, San Jose State, and I think that's why high tech came here.
I think the biggest surprise that I had to do with all of the buildings in terms of Silicon Valley continuing to grow up. I remember Apple Computers, a little startup company, and I come back and it's a multi-million-dollar international business now. The entire Silicon Valley phenomenon, and Cupertino, of course, is right smack in the middle of it. And that's how people knew Cupertino when I was in LA. They'd say, "Well, where are you from?" I said, "Cupertino," and the first thing they think about is Apple Computers and all of the electronics firms up here. So I think that was the biggest thing.
Cupertino has developed a very strong reputation for being very scientific, high tech. Apple Computer decided to locate here. The founders of Apple went to Homestead High School, grew up in the Cupertino region. I think a lot of very high-powered business people and academic people have come from Cupertino.
I enjoy Cupertino. I think the city council, they do some things that I believe in, but I think they have a nice city, they have it clean.
I think the city council is really meeting the people's needs, and they recognize the fact that, hey, we are Cupertino and we are different and we are special, and we should continue to be special, and they've got some tough decisions to make.
I like the fact that there is a good library and that there is a group at City Hall that are trying to plan for the future, even though a lot of people may feel that there's too much regulating of one's life. There is a good deal of that. Nevertheless, we have to look to future growth.
I hear many people say what I really moved to Cupertino for was because I liked the open space and I liked some of the features that don't involve so much development. What do you say to those citizens?
Well, that's the hard one. The city's grown up. The whole valley has grown up. I think Cupertino has gone through the growing pains better than any other city in the valley. And as I was indicating in the last call, that we've tried to concentrate the development in certain key or core areas of the community. And interestingly enough, through all the work that we've done in the general plan to try and protect certain areas and allow growth in others, I think we've still been able to maintain, or at least that I think most people in the valley would say that Cupertino still has a rural quality to it. The fact that we're nestled against the foothills, the fact that we do have a fine park system. So I think we've managed to keep a unique quality of life here in the city.
The landscaping of the buildings and all this has really beautified the area. You're sad to see the trees go, but they have done a good job in landscaping and requirements of fixing the area up.
I think the community, after they saw what a beautiful building it was, really accepted it. I haven't heard anyone say that they don't like it. In fact, the more other fashion malls and places like that you visit, the more you realize what a beautiful one this is. And we've taken guests there from other places, and they're always amazed and really pleased, with Falco.
Bay Area people think there are traffic problems. They haven't seen anything until they've been in LA traffic. Right now, I'm working up in San Francisco and commuting from Cupertino, and a lot of people think, they say, "Alan, how can you drive so far every day? It's 50 miles, but I do it in an hour." In LA, at times I was driving 40, 50 miles, but I was spending an hour and a half to 2 hours each way getting to and from work. And the traffic just doesn't move, so I really have no problems with any of the traffic up in this area, or what people call traffic. It's nothing compared to what other places have.
One of the things that's happened recently that I like is that new building for the handicap. I think that's very good.
The first reason is because of all my wonderful friends and the people that I have worked with, and also serving on architectural and site control for the city for 7 years. That gave me an opportunity to see some of the problems that the developers were facing.
The service clubs in Cupertino today are doing an awful lot for the youth, the Rotary and the Lions and the Kiwanis and the Optimists, and they're all concerned about how can we help people. And that's continuing on, and I think that's why we won't lose the flair of really what Cupertino is all about.
Most of our relatives live here, so that's one reason we like it here. We have a church that we like, and people in the church that we like. All of these things add up. We like the Historical Society. We like keeping in touch with friends that we grew up with.
One thing that I have so admired about this community is that the way of life here, the quality of life is quite good. You don't have some of those things that are associated with big towns, such as crime, and you have very little of it here from what I can perceive.
I just feel it's Cupertino, and that's my home, and I belong here, and I enjoy it. I've always worked in the schools and the church, and I belong to the Native Daughters and belong to them and the Rebeccas.
I definitely consider Cupertino my home. I guess I'm like most people. I didn't really understand what the good I had until I left, and then I realized what I was missing, and so I made the right choice and came back. It definitely has a lot to offer compared to other communities within California.
Friends, family, location, a stimulating environment for professional and educational growth. All of these contribute to making Cupertino great. Okay, so where do we go from here? What options do we have for the future, and what could it be like?
When land values rise and people can make a fortune overnight on land, they make that fortune. And they have made the fortune. And so that's what it's all about. I'm looking right here at a library, wonderful. But look behind it, condominiums, there's new condominiums over here, there's going to be a hotel right here, it's just growing and growing, and we're not going to stop progress. But if we do it in an orderly manner, it's going to be okay, because it's going to happen. It's here, and we can't change that. But we can change the way people feel about it, maybe. We have to change the way people feel about their community.
I would like to see not too many commercial buildings. I would like to see more residential. I'd like to see it not become a sprawling metropolis and especially not huge high-rise buildings. Would not like to see too many hotels and motels, which only bring in a lot more traffic. I realize that it's good business, but I would not like to see it, which is a selfish point of view.
I mean, we're definitely stuck in the middle of San Jose, Sunnyvale, Mountain View, all these other communities around us, and we're all sort of growing into one sprawling metropolis. And I think it is a concern that the leaders of Cupertino need to address.
Working within the school district at several different levels, I have learned to appreciate to a greater degree the importance of planning. And I really believe that the city of Cupertino could best meet the needs of this community by looking 2, 5, maybe even 10 years into the future, doing a very detailed study of what they see happening here in terms of this mix between commercial and family and community and the schools and so forth. So I see the major goal of Cupertino, and I hope this isn't too trite, but they need to involve as many people in this planning process, planning for the future, as they can. Because when people get involved in the planning, they buy into the decisions that are made, and then they work very diligently to see that those goals are met.
I think it provides quite a challenge for Cupertino City Hall. In fact, I've talked to Phil Johnson, and we talked about the fact that Cupertino is growing rapidly, and some of the changes that may be necessary in the future in order to control that growth. I think that's the key, is to try to control it, make sure we keep the natural beauty that this area has in terms of parks, different kinds of recreation, But in terms of the actual growth of Silicon Valley, I think it's good. We're getting more people here, and I'd like to keep that part under control, but it's nice to expand as a community.
Cupertino has been blessed with many citizens that have been able to look to the future. And as a result, today the city is recognized as one of the finest in the valley and one of the most prestigious cities in the Santa Clara Valley. Incorporated in 1955, it was the 13th city in Santa Clara County, and the community has changed or shifted from one of an agricultural base to one of a high-tech community. Through it all, the community character, I think, has been an integral part of the city and all the changes that we've gone through. It may interest you to know that when the original petition for incorporation was made, it included 4 points. And the first point was to preserve the rural atmosphere of the community, to permit farmers to operate with minimum tax expense, to bring local problems, and I can hear Sharon out there, to bring local problems under control by local representation in government, and to allow Cupertino to plan and prepare for its growth, future direction, and its needs. 416 residents voted in the election. There were 231 for, and 185 were opposed. And on October 10, 1955, Cupertino officially became a city.
Since that time, 30 years has really proven to be a period of growth for Cupertino. As you've seen in this program, not only do landmarks change, but citizens' perceptions do too, along with their interpretation of what makes an ideal city. Now it's time for you to draw your own conclusions about Cupertino. The purpose of Cupertino Perspective and Channel 30 is to provide a forum where stimulating ideas can be presented and shared. We need your active involvement. City Hall needs to hear your voice. Use your sound-off forums in the Cupertino scene. Call the mayor and the city council. Write to them, or call City Hall directly and give us your suggestions on how to make Cupertino an even better place to live. Get involved. Make a difference.
Cupertino has a lot to offer in terms of the warmth of the people. I guess the feeling that I got in my 2 years in Los Angeles is that the people weren't necessarily cold, but the community was. And that community sometimes carried over when people could be impersonal, like for instance on a freeway. You know, you very rarely see people stopping on a freeway to help motorists in distress, whereas in this area, I see it happen a lot more often, even though there's all the danger associated with it. But the people just care a little bit more, even when nobody even knows their name. So I think as a community, Cupertino exudes the warmth that really feels good, and it makes someone feel like they're a real part of a community. And even if they don't know the person, they know that person is going to help them if they need it.
For Cupertino Perspective, this is Dorothy Cornelius.